Hello and welcome to the latest weekly Tees Business Leaders Q&A. I'm Dave Allen and Tees Business is proud to bring you our latest edition of our weekly chat with business leaders. We're receiving up to 20,000 Facebook views every week, so thank you for those following us. And a big mention too that we're now on with the planning for the summer issue of Tees Business Magazine. We'll be bringing that out on published on July the 10th. So you've got a few weeks now to book your space in the summer issue, special issue really focusing on the COVID crisis and the challenge for all Tees businesses in coming through that. So this week on Tees Business Leaders, our COVID theme is our much missed High Street. Of course, we're joined by three people who certainly know a lot more about the High Street business than most. Naturally, our questions will be again gauged around the impact of the ongoing COVID pandemic, and we'll be hearing about the challenges your businesses are having in the face of this unprecedented crisis. But first of all, I can start with Karen Eve. Karen is the Regional Manager for Knight Frank and looks after Castlegate and Wellington Square shopping centres in Stockton. And Karen, I believe that's home to more than 100 retail businesses, is that right?
It is when they're all open, yes.
They're all open. Well, let's hope that's soon. That's very soon. Yeah. Thanks, Karen. We'll speak to you in just a moment. And we're also joined by Adam Hillier, owner of Hillier's Jewellers in Middlesbrough. Hi, Adam.
Hi there.
Thanks for joining us, Adam. And finally, and certainly last but not least, Steve Cochrane, owner and managing director of Psyche on Linthorpe Road, and of course with stores in Durham too. And been managing very much online recently, Steve, I hear.
Yeah, we have. Yeah, online's gone through the roof for us, so that's been a saving grace, thankfully.
Well, I think we're all having to adapt in these difficult times, and you know, one thing, if it would be a whole lot worse if it wasn't for online and digital nowadays, wouldn't it? So thank goodness this isn't. We aren't still living in the 1980s. So panel, I'm going to head on for a few questions, but just remind you just to keep your answers to 2 or 3 minutes, if you could, please. First of all, we all know so-called non-essential high street stores were forced to close during the lockdown. So I'm going to ask each of you if you can explain just how tough it's been to have been forced to close down and how difficult it's been for your business over the last 3 months. I'm going to start with you, Steve, if I can. Tell us about, I mean, first of all, that first impact of being told you have to close down. Just how did that feel?
Well, we closed anyway. We closed on the Monday morning anyway because we were getting worried and we didn't think that it was safe to continue trading for either customers or our staff. And closing's actually the easy part. I've enjoyed being closed. It's been lovely and quiet. I've got loads of work done. We've relaunched a new website and we've been able to totally focus on our e-commerce customers and growing our e-commerce business. So it has made life easier. The tough bit's going to be reopening. That's going to be really, really, really daunting and quite frightening, actually.
Right.
You know, being closed and this nice, calm, quiet. I mean, we're fortunate because our internet business is strong and we've been doing 80% of our turnover online. So the combined turnover of the whole business has only dropped by 20%. We've been discounting online, unfortunately, so it isn't like for like. But we've only had 10% of our staff in, so the furlough saving is going to be enormous. So financially, we're actually better off closed, ironically enough.
So does that mean that you may review the future running of the business and how it operates?
Oh, absolutely. I think that we're going to go through the most amount of change the high street has ever gone through. And I think that if you're an independent, then you can adapt and evolve and encompass that change or embrace that change a lot better than if you're a massive multiple. So I think it's actually going to be an advantage to smaller retailers. Now, I think that's going to mean that hopefully the high street will have more diversity because there'll be more smaller retailers as some of the bigger ones pull out altogether or don't even reopen after the lockdown. I'm thinking mainly like, obviously we've lost Warehouse, Oasis, quite a lot of Arcadia stores are going to close. I don't know what's going to happen to Debenhams. And there's a few big, fantastic businesses that I really don't want to see go, like Liberties, are in difficulties. So there's a lot of change happening, and some of it's good, and some of it's going to be a bit disappointing and upsetting.
Challenging times ahead. I mean, there you go, Karen. We've already touched on, you look after 100 stores when they're open, and I imagine they're going through the full gamut of challenge right now, are they?
Yeah, and there's been a mixed response to what's happened through lockdown with the shopping centres. One of the schemes over at Wellington Square, we only had 5% occupancy throughout COVID. So most of our stores actually had to close. In Castlegate Shopping Centre, 25% of businesses remained open as essential businesses. And of the ones that have traded, we've had both ends of the spectrum, really, in terms of success and difficulties. Some businesses, I would say, have traded exceptionally well, and some businesses have traded up to kind of 50% down against their targets and have struggled.
And then, of course, others have been closed altogether, I guess.
Some have been closed altogether. The ones that have been open, it's been really interesting to see how the independent businesses particularly have been able to adapt and diversify their businesses. Where you've got a national model, it's much more difficult. You're kind of limited to being open or closed, and you have your online or you don't. If you're an independent business, which we have a lot of, those businesses are able to very quickly respond to changes in the market, changes in what customers want. They can implement home delivery services really easily, and that's been a success for some of our businesses, to be honest.
Probably the challenge is brought on change that might have taken many years to, if ever, to have happened.
Absolutely. I mean, some of our independent businesses have been trading for over 40 years, and what comes with that is all that history of the way that things were years ago. You know, it used to be a market town, and this is what customers wanted. And I would say that some of them have been reluctant to change along the way, and just expected that the way that we traded in 2020 should have been the way that we traded in 1970, and it was never going to be the same. COVID really has brought about that change. They've been pushed into doing things differently that perhaps they may never have done. And what's been really kind of heartwarming is to see that some of them have really flourished. You know, some people are getting out there, they're immersed in the community, they're responding to what the local community are asking for, and they're operating in different ways. So that's been really good.
Fantastic. I mean, Adam, come to you next. I mean, I guess your challenges are different again. Has this been an opportunity to innovate? I mean, well, let's start first of all. How difficult was it to be told your business has to close?
Well, as a family business, nobody wants to be told that, whether it's family business or a national. But we, kind of like Steve, we took the decision to close earlier than we were told. We didn't feel it was right for our staff members to be here, even ourselves. So, and we, again, took the opportunity to double down on our online business. So me and my brother have been constantly working every day, getting as much product onto the website. It's something that I've never really done because I look after the shop floor. So I'm doing a skill that I've never really enjoyed doing so much, but I've enjoyed the challenge. And you know what, similar to what Steve was saying, we've managed to utilize our technology and our website to grow that side of our business. So it certainly helped having a website sitting there. We've obviously used the furlough scheme. All our staff's waiting to come back. We've got the grant money through, which was a huge help to help through these times. So it's
we're going to come to some of that as well. But so for you, I mean, I guess it was. I'm taking from all of you that it was certainly initially a lot of short-term pain and probably worry, and then it's been like the opportunity to innovate that's come through from that.
I think that's definitely right. I feel like we're kind of in the eye of the storm at the minute, at least I do. where everything's nice and calm. I can sit down, I can just work in the office with no one shouting me onto the shop floor. And it's been a welcome change. But I do want to get back onto the shop floor, and I want everyone coming back in when it's safe to do so.
You're looking forward to someone shouting you through every 10 minutes?
Yeah. Totally distracting me from actually what I want to try and do. Yeah.
And it seems there is light at the end of the tunnel. The high street is set to reopen, albeit there'll be a new normal. So I'm going to ask each of you, what challenges are you facing in preparing to welcome customers back, and what changes can shoppers expect to see when they do call in? Again, I'm going to start with you, Steve. I mean, you've got some significant changes, I guess, to the experience of coming into Psyche.
Yeah, we've made massive changes. I mean, not only have we shop fitted the whole store and put different products on different floors and moved it all around, but all the personal protection that we're installing, screens on tills. There's going to be a one-way in, one-way out. There's a hand sanitizer at the entrance, and we're giving staff and customers. Staff have all got their own masks, but we're giving them visors as well. And we're offering customers gloves and visors. And we've invested in a hydrogen machine. It's called HOCl machine that kills everything in changing rooms and on garments when they get returned. And then we're going to have to put them away for 2 or 3 days before they can go back out. So there's a lot of changes going to happen. And it's quite daunting, the amount of change that there's going to be. I'm really sort of apprehensive about it,
but excited too.
I'm excited to get back open now because it's been nearly 12 weeks, and we haven't quite finished all the shop fitting, so it's going to go to the wire. We open on Thursday. We're not opening on Monday. We're opening a bit late, but we'll still be shop fitting and finishing everything off and merchandising and putting everything out the night before we open. So.
Sounds like seat of your pants stuff as well, Steve. After all the planning too. And now, Karen, if it come to you again. So
just to finish it.
Sorry, Steve. Go on.
8 till 12 to NHS and to essential key workers. So we're gonna do an early opening for them. So we're doing that on the Thursday as well. And so
8 till 12, do you say?
Sorry?
8 till 12, did you say?
8 till 12, yeah, for
fantastic.
Key workers and NHS.
That's really good. So that's great to help spread that word. Karen, what about yourself? How's what are the challenges that some of the? I mean, first of all, the centres, but then the shops in between. You've got the sort of twin challenges. I know that you don't personally run the stores within, but you must be exchanging views and hearing the stories and concerns of all those inside.
Absolutely. We had to manage through preparing for a full reopening of the shopping centres. So we put in a one-way system in Castlegate shopping centre, which, if you've not been, is a covered shopping centre. And some of the issues we were faced with there were based on the fact that the scheme was built in the 60s and it's very narrow. So at some places we have significant pinch points of perhaps only 3 metres wide, and it wasn't possible for people to socially distance and pass in a two-way flow of pedestrians. So we had to put a one-way system in place there. And various other things. We had issues in, do we keep the washrooms open or do we close them? How do we manage them safely, reduce touch points? And when you come out to shop, there's a lot of touch points, lots of door handles, lots of pay machines, lots of card machines, and all of those things that you've got to kind of factor in and wonder how you're going to manage that safely. We've managed to do that. We've done it on both sites. We have increased our security presence so that we can advise customers from a customer service point of view of how to adhere to the one-way system, where they can find hand sanitizer stations and things like this. And then we're working with all of our retailers in terms of supporting them, putting together their COVID risk assessments and method statements for reopening their shops. and I'm actually a director on Stockton Bid, so I've been working in conjunction with the Bid, who've got some really good advice and some resources as well for businesses that are in the bid district in Stockton to access, free resources as well. So if businesses are looking for the screen guards to go on the till points, or PPE or gloves, hand gels and things like this, then the Bid have got lots of stuff like that. And they can also help independent businesses with preparing their COVID risk assessments, because sometimes this is something that businesses have not had to do before, and if they've only got very small teams, they've maybe not thought about it. So we're doing that educating process as well.
Yeah, so many challenges and so many things to think about. It's a very long tick list by the sound of things to get through. And ultimately, what you're trying to do, I guess, that the key bit is get to a position where your customers feel comfortable and safe to visit.
That's where we need to get to, and that's obviously the position that's most fundamental for customers, for staff, for people working in the centre. But it doesn't come without its frustrations for the customers, because not everybody wants to accept our new normal, and so they're frustrated when they have to queue outside of shops, and every shop has its capacity, so there are guidelines on how many people you can have in your shop per square metre or per 2 square metres, and the shops are all adhering to that, and when they reach capacity they're counting people in and out and making them queue. So that's been a challenge, and it will continue to be a challenge when we're dealing with members of the public and they're perhaps wanting to shop in a hurry. You can't do that anymore.
Yeah, I've never been on a long shopping trip myself, but I might have to get used to it. Adam, you've at Hillier, you've long established, but it's a relatively small store. It's not Psyche, is it? So I'm guessing that queuing outside is going to be something that your customers will need to get used to.
Very possibly. We've got a bigger store than most jewellery shops where we are, so we're fortunate in that sense. We're going to opt in for a one-way system. People come into the right of the shop and go around and leave on the opposite side. There's going to be lots of perspex in my shop, and I'm sure every other shop along Linthorpe Road in the town. Hand sanitizers, just kind of everything that people are now expecting to see. The 2 metre distance rule applying. So it's just learning how to adapt really to what's happening.
I'm gonna ask you one there, because it's been in the press recently that there's other countries the 2 metre rule is not actually in place. It's now, well, some have 1.5 metres and some are now down to 1 metre. I mean, you think that is something that maybe this country needs to consider, and because I'm guessing it would be make a considerable difference for businesses. Karen, what about you from your front there?
I think it would make a big difference. I'm not expecting it anytime soon, but even if you think about other areas of life, just schooling and all of those areas where we have problems, that has a knock-on effect. So we have a lot of staff that work for the businesses in our shopping centres that aren't able to work, perhaps because they've got commitments to children who can't go to school. And if the rules were relaxed a little bit in terms of that distance for social distancing, then that would have a knock-on effect across the whole economy, is my opinion.
Steve, have you got an opinion on that one? Would you like to see a 1 metre rule brought in?
I have. And I wouldn't like to say that yet. I think it's too early. I'd like to get back open, see how it works. I'm more worried about a second spike than anything, because that's meant to be more devastating, the potential threat of that, than the first one. You can imagine what would happen if we had a second lockdown and it was in October, November, December. It would be game over for a lot of businesses then, because Q4 is life and death. So what we can't afford to risk, you can write off spring summer because it's not particularly busy for a lot of businesses. But if we aren't careful here and we're not 100% as safe as we can possibly be, I think we've got to stick with the 2 metre rule for as long as possible. And I know it's going to hurt, but I'd rather not risk that second spike. And I don't want that second spike to come later on in the year, which is vital.
I imagine you agree with that one, Adam. A jewellery store, Christmas would be devastating if you lost that one.
It's 100% agree with Steve. I mean, you know, I don't want to see any changes to the distance. You know, everybody knows it's 2 meters. You know, and I know it's tough. It's even tough in my shop where we've got a couple of bottlenecks. But we're just going to have to see, you know, one person in that area at any time. But it has to be 2 meters for now. We can't see that change because it's kind of instilled into our minds already. So, I don't want to see that change just yet.
Okay, there's full agreement there. Steve, I'm going to come back to you with this one. I mean, so which of the government business support schemes have you actually utilised at Psyche? And how good do you think the government support has been? And then, I guess more importantly, what more do you think the government can or should do going forward?
I think the government support's been amazing. I think the furlough scheme was genius. I do think it was a tad too generous, personally, because I think it's going to be quite difficult to get some staff back to work because they've got that comfortable staying at home, getting 80% of the wages for not doing much and not having any costs, or travel costs or coming to work costs. So it's maybe being a little bit generous, but I think it was a brilliant idea. So we've utilised that. We've utilised the VAT relief, the VAT extension, and obviously the rates relief for a year, which are all very, very welcome. I'm not keen on taking on more debt, so I'm not going for a Sybil's loan. I might go for a bounce back loan. I'm still looking at that. But really, we haven't really accessed much support because I'd rather survive on our own as much as we possibly can.
Is there anything that you would like to see or you think that will be needed in the months ahead from the government?
I think if they can keep the Sybil's loan going as long as possible for businesses that might need it in the future, we might need it in the future. I don't know. I've programmed in that the website's going to continue to be 50% up on last year, but the store's going to be 50% down. And if I'm wrong and the store's 75% down, I could have a problem, and I may need to access some funding or some borrowing to keep going. So if they can keep that idea or the offer going into the first half of next year, then that would be very helpful.
Aaron, what about yourself? I mean, which government support schemes have you utilised? I don't know whether as a shopping centre you've actually gone into that, or whether Knight Frank have gone into that. Yeah. And how good do you think the government support has been, first of all?
I think that the furlough scheme's been great, so I think I would echo a lot of what Steve said, really. In terms of Knight Frank staff, we did furlough some of our team, and some of the team we kept on. For us, our staff are paid for through service charge, which in turn is paid for by the tenants, so the businesses that operate within our schemes. So what we wanted to demonstrate was that where we could make savings through service charge, we were doing that to help the businesses. When we didn't have a full shopping centre of trading businesses, we didn't need all of our staff, and that applied across the board. So we reduced our housekeeping and we reduced our security teams as well. So the furlough scheme has really worked for us, and we also know that the businesses that trade within the shopping centres have also accessed those schemes for their staff. I definitely echo what Steve said about it being a little bit generous. We've got staff, I'm sure, very comfortable positions at the moment, but it is supporting people that need to be supported, so it's worked really well. Our independent businesses have all been very grateful for the grant scheme, and Stockton Borough Council paid that out really quickly. People were seconded into different roles to make sure that the money hit the bank accounts of the people that needed it as quickly as possible, and that was a success. Some people have accessed the grant schemes. I've heard interesting uses, to be honest, of what those grants are paying for, not necessarily always to help run the business. So
possibly the less said the better on that one.
Less said the better. But certainly furlough and grants been successful.
Fantastic. And is there anything that you hear from the other stores that are in there that are saying, well, but that's been great so far, but tell you what we are going to need is this?
I think that the things that people are asking for at the moment are support that's going to come perhaps from us or from within their own businesses in terms of marketing and advertising. So for us, it's wondering what's going to happen with consumer confidence and how are we going to attract people back to the high street and back to our retailers. We're going to put lots of things in place to try and encourage people out, but of course, a lot of people are scared now because the press have weighted very heavily on different things, which was relevant at the time. But there's a lot of nervous people out there now, and they're nervous about coming out and what does that look and feel like. So I think marketing will be an area for support. I don't expect that to come from government.
Challenge. Yeah,
No.
Exactly.
Adam, the term there that Karen used, consumer confidence, all important, I imagine.
Yeah, definitely. It's rest assured that I know everyone's doing what they can do to make shopping safe for everybody. I've spoken to a lot of retailers who were still in and out of their stores, probably doing the same as myself, tidying the storeroom that's not been tidied for a long time, and everyone's just knuckling down and trying to make everywhere as safe as possible, utilising social media, letting people know everywhere's safe to come.
What schemes of government schemes have you lent on at Hillier then, Adam?
Well, obviously the grant scheme come through from Middlesbrough Council really quickly. That alleviated a lot of worry in the early part of the closure.
Yeah.
The furlough scheme, I intend to bring, we don't have a massive workforce, but I intend to bring everybody back as soon as possible. And we're looking at, possibly looking at one of the loan schemes to help, bring some stock in, help us grow while we're in lockdown and be in a strong place coming out of it as well.
And is there anything that you would like to see the government do in the weeks, the months ahead?
Do you know what? I don't want to get too political about anything on here, but the one thing I think the government has got right is the help towards the economy, the furlough scheme, the grants, the loans at the lower rate than usual with the interest free for 12 months. I really don't think they could have done much more than what they have done in regards to, helping businesses and employees.
There was a dot there that I noticed, and I guess you're referring to possibly there might be open some criticism on communications and actions on other fronts. But today we're talking business, so let's keep doing that. I'm going to stay with you now, Adam, for our last question. So, have you got a message for Teesside shoppers that are thinking, right, I'm going to make my first foray into town for some weeks? What's your key message to them? Because I think there'll be lots watching this that'll be thinking, right, okay, what can you tell me that makes me want to come into town?
Well, once lockdown's lifted and places can reopen, and I know from talking to, like I just said, a number of other retailers in the town centre, I've kept in touch with a lot of people via WhatsApp groups and all kinds of things up and down the country even, and I know everybody is really trying their best to make everywhere as safe as possible. We've looked at UV bacteria cleaning things. So after someone's looked at a watch, we only need to drop it in there for a couple of minutes and that's it, it's cleaned. There's no bacteria left on it. So I know that everybody that I speak to anyway is ultimately trying their best to make everywhere as safe as possible. It's going to be difficult, especially, for my game where, people want to try watches, rings, jewellery on. We need to take links out for people. It's going to make a sale process a lot longer, but ultimately we're all doing the best we absolutely can. And it's going to be safe I think it's going to be safe to come down because we know everyone's trying the best. And
the key bit, of course, I guess, is that they know that you need them as well. You need them to come down.
Well, of course, yeah. And there's a lot of customers we've missed. I've bumped into a few of my customers while I've been out, and the first thing they ask me is, when are we opening? So it's been frustrating to say the least. But we've had a lot of support from some of our customers as well, during the closure, people ordering things over the phone. I've even dropped the number of watches off our customers' houses for them who live local.
Personal service, can't beat it.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. Steve, what about yourself? What's your key message to Teesside shoppers as you approach opening?
I would echo what Adam's saying. That us and every retailer I talk to are pulling out all the stops to make, coming to a store, and we're doing exactly the same. We're investing a lot of money to make the store absolutely, totally as safe as it possibly can be, so that we want to minimize the risk completely to staff and to customers and to everybody that walks through the door. We want to make sure it's completely, totally and utterly as safe as possible, and with the best will in the world, it will be.
Fantastic. And you just want, listen, it won't be a full Psyche from the moment you open, but you want to see a safely busy Psyche, I guess, is what you're looking for. Yeah,
well, we're going to limit numbers anyway. I mean, whether people will queue to go into discretionary purchase stores like ours, I don't know. But particularly if it's raining, they won't, will they? But, we are going to keep the numbers sensible. I want to make sure it's safe. So we're going to really, really push for the 2 metre social distancing everywhere. And we've got, like I say, we've got an entry and exit. We've got a one-way system around the whole store. So we can do it on our scale quite well. It hasn't been easy, but we've managed it. So yeah, I mean, anyone that hasn't been in for a few months is going to see huge change in all the refits that we've done as well. So it's exciting, but safety's our primary concern above everything.
It's worth coming in just to see how things have changed in there, Steve.
Yeah, there's a massive amount of change. Massive. It's the most change we've ever gone through in our 38 years. So.
Wow. Karen, if we'd have said that there'd be queues outside of all the shops at the start of the year, we'd have all been celebrating, wouldn't we? And here we are worrying about it. It's funny how life turns out. What's your message to Teesside shoppers for anyone thinking of coming down to Wellington Square or to Castlegate? What's your key message to them? Because you want people to get back into the habit, don't you?
Yeah, I do. And I think for me, my advice to shoppers would be just research what that shopping trip's going to look like. We've put our safe practices in place, but there are a lot of other things open to customers. And I'm part of the North East Shopping Centre Forum, and we join up with retail managers and people who manage sites across the whole of the North East. And I think that wherever you go, if you come to Stockton, you go to Middlesbrough, you go to Newcastle, or whatever that trip is, there's things available to the customer. So have a look online, look on council websites, look on social media sites, and visit the sites also of the retailers of where you're going to go. There'll be things like free parking. You might be able to make an appointment at your favourite store and actually have a special service where they're expecting you. I know some of the furniture shops are doing that, but also some of the fashion shops are doing that too. So if you want to guarantee that you can get in, and you want to guarantee that somebody's going to serve you and help you make that purchase, then ring the store and they'll tell you what safe practices they've got in place and what's available to you.
I'm guessing that you have in your mind you picture that you'll start with this in place, but that will just adapt to the challenges that you find in the weeks ahead.
I think fluidity really is for everybody. We've just got to change with what's happening and adapt. And if we can continue to do that, then our businesses will succeed and people will come back eventually.
It's certainly been fascinating to hear the views of the three of you. I mean, we all knew that the High Street faced challenges before all this, and who knows, this may yet be the saving grace of the High Street, and we may find a bounce back that we never anticipated. That's all we have time for this week on Tees Business Leaders Online Q&A. Our thanks to Karen, Steve, and to Adam for sharing their valuable insights into the challenges and learning and into running the differing high street businesses during these most challenging of times. We hope we can speak to you again and in the not too distant future when we'll be speaking about the sunshine after the rain. We'll be back again next week with 3 more business leaders. And until then, from all of us at Tees Business, stay safe, good luck in whatever your business is. Let's keep talking up Teesside. Thanks for joining us.
Bye all. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.